Choosing whether to buy or lease a car is an important financial decision. And with any important decision, it's crucial to perform extensive research and understand your priorities and personal circumstances to ensure that you're making the best decision for your needs. So in this video, I'm going to first provide a quick overview of buying versus leasing a car, explore a few examples of how the finances play out between the two options, provide a few takeaways and other things to consider in your own analysis, and lastly, provide a few pros and cons to both buying and leasing. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Andrew and I'm a certified public accountant and former financial analyst. And on this channel, we explore data-driven strategies to help us achieve financial independence. Let's first start with a brief overview on the process of buying a vehicle with a conventional car loan. With this method, you borrow money from a bank, credit union, or another lending institution and make monthly payments for a certain number of years. These monthly payments cover interest on the loan and paying down the principal. As you repay part of the principal each month, you build equity in the car, and by the end of the loan term, you fully own the car. Now with a lease, you make monthly payments to drive a new car for a set term, and at the end of the lease term, typically 2 to 3 years, you must either return the car or buy the car outright based on the lease buyout price agreed upon in the original lease contract. Now that we understand the process of buying versus leasing, let's take a look at two examples of how the finances play out between the two. I will use the 2024 Hyundai Elantra and the 2024 Infiniti QX80 as examples. The reason for this is because the Hyundai Elantra is known to hold a lot of its value and so it depreciates less than most cars over time, while the Infiniti QX80 is a car that actually loses a lot of its value, and so we will see if the type of car makes a difference in our calculations. Let's first look at the 2024 Hyundai Elantra. Now for illustrative purposes, we will assume the following. 1, we will put down a $3,500 down payment in both options. 2, we will use a term of 3 years or 36 months for better comparative purposes. 3, the maximum miles driven per year are 12,000 miles. And 4, we are assuming an excellent credit score of 760. I will show how the finances play out for two scenarios. The first is assuming that we will keep the car after 3 years, and the second is assuming that we will not keep the car after year 3. So based on their website, the total MSRP for the 2024 Hyundai Elantra is $22,590. If we look at the financing option first, based on the previous assumptions I just mentioned, at the time of recording this video, they are offering a 4.49% APR, leading to a monthly payment of $568 for 36 months. This brings the total installment costs to $20,448. Once we add the initial $3,500 down payment, our total costs incurred are $23,948. Now looking at the lease option, following the same assumptions, the monthly lease payments after the initial $3,500 due at signing is about $303. This means that throughout the lease, the total installment costs are $10,908. Adding the initial $3,500 due at signing brings our total cost to $14,408. Now, in order to compare apples to apples, we need to include the cost to actually buy the car at the end of the 3-year lease, which is known as a lease buyout offer, which we will assume to be $13,780. If you're wondering how I determined this amount, I simply looked online on Edmunds, which is an American online resource for automotive information that has forums that share actual lease buyout offers on lease deals throughout the US. I simply took an average of many of the responses which stated a lease buyout offer between 60 to 63% of the original MSRP for the Hyundai Elantra with 12,000 miles driven annually, and so I used 61% as a conservative number for this example. This brings our total cost to own the car through the lease option to $28,188, which is approximately $4,200 more than the financing option. It is also important to note that oftentimes consumers would need to take out an auto loan with higher interest rates to actually purchase the car after the lease is up, which would lead to additional interest costs in the future, which are not included in this example. Now let's go ahead and look at how things play out if we assume we will not keep the car after 3 years. For the financing option, we still have the total cost of $23,948, but because we fully own the car after 3 years, we can sell the car and actually get some of that money back. Based on CarEdge's average depreciation chart of Hyundai Elantras after 3 years, the car's residual value will be approximately 82%, which in this case turns out to be $18,524, bringing down our total cost to $5,424. With the leasing option, at the end of the lease term, we would simply return the car back to the dealership, and so our total cost would be $14,415. In this case, we would be spending $9,000 more leasing the car rather than financing the car and selling it after 3 years. So with the Hyundai Elantra, a car known to hold its value better than most cars, it is more cost effective in both options to buy rather than lease. Let's now take a look at the 2024 Infiniti QX80. Following the same assumptions of 1, putting down a $3,500 down payment, 2, a term length of 3 years or 36 months, 3, maximum miles driven per year of 12,000 miles, and 4, assuming an excellent credit score of 760. Again, we will look at how the finances play out, assuming we will keep the car after 3 years, and then also assuming we will not keep the car after year 3. Based on their website, the total MSRP for the 2024 Infiniti QX80 is $79,195. If we look at the financing option, based on our assumptions at the time of recording this video, they are offering a 2.9% APR, leading to a monthly payment of $2,198 for 36 months. This brings the total installment costs to $79,128. Once we add the initial $3,500 down payment, our total costs incurred are $82,628. Now looking at the lease option, following the same assumptions, the monthly lease payment after the initial $3,500 due at signing is $1,154. This means that throughout the lease, the total installment costs are $41,544. Adding the initial $3,500 paid at signing brings our total cost to $45,044. Again, in order to compare apples to apples, we need to include the cost to buy the car at the end of the 3-year lease, which I found one offer on their site for $47,577 after 3 years. This brings our total cost to own the car through the lease option to $92,621, which is approximately $10,000 more than the financing option. Now let's go ahead and look at how things play out if we assume that we will not keep the car after 3 years. For the financing option, we will still have the total cost of $82,628, but because we fully own the car after 3 years, we will sell the car and get money back. Based on CarEdge's average depreciation chart of the Infiniti QX80 after 3 years, the car's residual value will be approximately 58%, which in this case turns out to be $46,070, bringing down our total cost to $36,558. With the leasing option, at the end of the lease term, we would return the car back to the dealership, and so the total cost would be the $45,044. In this scenario, we would be spending $8,500 more leasing the car rather than buying it and selling it after 3 years. So with the Infiniti QX80, a car known to lose its value more than most cars, it is again more cost effective in both options to buy rather than lease it. With that being said, the finances of buying versus leasing a car can vary depending on a bunch of factors, including the actual resale value you get when selling the car, interest rates, lease buyout offers, your credit score, incentives offered, term length, and more. For example, if after 3 years the used car market is extremely low and you end up selling the Infiniti QX80 for only $37,000 instead of the estimated $46,070, it would have been more cost effective to actually lease in that scenario. Obviously, no one can predict how much you will actually sell the car for in the future, and so it's important to use a good and oftentimes a conservative estimate based on historical data for your own analysis. In addition, throughout the car buying or car leasing process, you can negotiate terms, costs, and fees. And so it's important to do the same analysis with the specific offers you get because it may lead to a different conclusion. With that being said, it is typically more cost effective to buy rather than lease, but again, it's important to run your own numbers. Now, looking past just the numbers, I lastly want to highlight some pros and cons of both buying and leasing. Looking at the pros to buying a car first, you get to own the asset after the loan term. You can drive as many miles as you want without any restrictions, and you can customize your car however you want because you own it. Now, a few downsides of buying it include having higher monthly payments because you're paying off the entire purchase of the vehicle, plus interest and other finance charges, taxes, and fees. And you also have to deal with maintenance costs once your new car warranty runs out. And lastly, you have to deal with the hassle of actually selling your car in the future. Now, looking at the pros of leasing, you typically receive much lower monthly payments because you're only paying for the vehicle's depreciation during the lease term, plus interest, finance charges, and taxes. Car lease agreements often come with routine maintenance service included in the terms, allowing drivers to save on regular maintenance costs. You don't have to go through the hassle of selling it once it's time to move on, and you can receive significant tax advantages if you use your car for business purposes. Now, the cons of leasing is that if you lease one car after another, monthly payments go on forever and you're stuck in a cycle of always paying for a vehicle. Also, lease contracts specify a limited number of miles, generally between 10,000 and 15,000 miles a year. And so if you go over that limit, you'll have to pay an excess mileage penalty that can range anywhere from 10 cents to as much as 50 cents for every additional mile. If you don't maintain the vehicle in good condition, you'll have to pay excess wear and tear charges when you turn it in. And if you decide that you don't like the car anymore, or if you can't afford payments, it will cost you because you'll probably be stuck with thousands of dollars of early termination fees if you want to get out of a lease early. Now, that's all that I have for this video. If you found this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to subscribe as I post content like this every week. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.